All right, guys. So let's have this conversation about how to evolve, or I should say, before you get even to the point of evolution, let's talk about what the legend of the image architect is and why it even got created. So, for some of you who are watching this, perhaps you saw a recent interview or an ad online, or like I mentioned, something perhaps on media, television, etc. And you're wondering, okay, how does this exactly work, and what is it? How does it break down and apply to you? So a few years ago, probably 20 years back now, as crazy as that sounds, um, I participated. Was a student of engineering and an urban planning background, right? And upon graduation, entered the field. And even before graduating, I was actually pretty involved in, you know, internship work, and which then led to professional opportunities. So, in my Instagram, I told the story of how I'd worked as a project engineer, a transportation inspector, a bridge inspector for organizations ranging from environmental companies to um, bridge inspection firms to nonprofit organizations when I worked in the urban planning world for economic development plans. So I could go on, right? Full circle into all these different arenas that my level of education and expertise and skill and talent led me toward. So, looking back though, there was a point in time in the last leg of my career as an engineer, or project engineer, I should say, um, where I entered the field of commercial construction. And commercial construction really opened my eyes to how things were built, and also how complicated it was to manage um, built projects. You never really think about these things. You see a bulldozer, or you see a flagman, kind of telling you to slow down. You don't really think much about it. But let me tell you, the inner workings of a construction site will blow your mind. So they blew my mind as I discovered that a built structure, especially in commercial construction, requires 16 categories. And those 16 categories are or range, right, from everything from demolition to clearing the site to getting permits to putting the roof on, to putting the windows on, to the paint, to the flooring, the furnishings inside of the space, to the HVAC, the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing dynamics of an environment. All these things, right, have to be taken into account somewhere, right? And I use this illustration where I tell you, if you were building your dream home, would you ever scribble your dream home, the plans for your dream home on the back of a napkin, and then hand it to a general contractor and say, "Here, build this for me." Right? First of all, I mean, unless you just have that much money, and they would gladly take your money, right? You probably maybe going to get a loan from a bank, and the bank is going to want to know, where and how exactly is this money going to be spent, right? And what drawings and what plans do you have to show that this money is going to go to this outcome? So it's very serious, actually, for you to recognize that you wouldn't be able to build your dream home by scribbling on the back of a napkin or the back of an envelope, or even a our beloved um, erasable whiteboard. Right? None of us are going to do this. And so, similarly, I just want to ask you, would you build your life on the same premise, on scribbling in the back of a napkin, or scribbling on a piece of paper, or scribbling and scribbling on the back of a envelope? We don't think about our life in this way, but this is the insight that I had when I was coming out of the engineering field. I recognized that we build with such rigor and precision when it comes to physical structures. Isn't our life worth more than these physical structures? And why is it that we give them less attention, and we give more attention to the built environment than we do to ourselves when it comes to building it? And so, this idea that we can design, that we can build, that we can live better versions of ourselves, and live better lives really struck me. I said, if we build using these, at the time it was 16 divisions, these 16 categories to build a structure, well, what would be the equivalent structure to human beings? And I realized that, well, human beings are built based on five core categories. And those five core categories are our faith, our fellowship, our finances, our feelings, and our fitness. And faith is all things related to your spiritual mindset and your self-image, right? Which is where the image architecture comes from. And fellowship, it lends itself to the social dynamics that reinforce this self-image that we now have as a function of our faith, self-belief, self-esteem, self-confidence, right? And then the finances part has more to do with what we want to pour our talent and skills and gifts into based on our level of confidence in order to produce gold in the world, right? Which is income, money, etc. And in order to powerfully sustain all of this, we need to have our feelings in check, right? We really do need to have a certain particular energetic and emotional state that we maintain that supports everything that we've done and that we're doing. And lastly, the physical kingdom, which is fitness, is not just limited to the body, but also the artifacts and environments that we live in, right? So the condition of your home and whether or not you need to take your car in for an oil change or not, or rotate the tires, or apply a new paint of coat to the walls in the house. I mean, all these things really, add up, right? To make your physical environment work for you, right? Because if something in the physical environment breaks down, then it's hard to function. So if the roof caves in, it's hard to function. If the house burns down, it's hard to function. If you're disorganized and can't find things when you need them, it's hard to function. Okay, am I getting that message across? So that being said, these 5 divisions, just the same way you've got to get them all handled and addressed, are the same or parallel to the 16 divisions of the built world, right? If your mechanical, electrical, plumbing person or team doesn't have their stuff together, it affects the other trades because sometimes they have to, drill holes through walls in order for things to wrap around and work in a particular kind of way, right? Or for ventilation to reach a particular kind of room. And they've got to know, okay, is that wall going to be there by the time we need to show up? So there's a sequence to these 16 divisions. And similarly, there's a sequence to these 5 categories and these 5, what I call kingdoms of your life. So anyway, listen, there's so much I would love to train and teach and coach you on, but there's only so much I can talk to or talk about and address in a single video, which is why I created the 25 Blueprint Academy. And the 25 Blueprint Academy was really kind of like the inspired idea that I had of creating a repository of a location where all the technical aspects of this whole process could be housed so that I would have the time in order to work with certain people one-on-one. And if you are one of those certain people and or you love to participate in sort of a version or an automated version where you kind of DIY yourself through this whole thing, then the 24-hour blueprint program, of course, is ideal and works and can work for you. But I always have an application process. Why? Because I actually want the best qualified people to participate. Sometimes this particular approach and this particular model isn't for everyone. And I'd hate for you to take 2-3 days or 2 or 3 weeks or however long it takes for you to realize like, oh, okay, this is not a good fit or match. So I have an application link that I'll provide for you down below where you can go through this and apply. And there'll be a quiz that you'll take and participate in that will give you an idea of what is called a kingdom score. That kingdom score allows you to know how you would rate the structure of your home, which is your life, right? If I was doing a bridge inspection or if I was doing a house inspection, I would look at the conditions of your roof, the conditions of the foundation. I would do the conditions of, the windows, the grounds, the area around, any erosion happening, right? Like I would take all those things into consideration to really give you accurate assessment of how strong your home is, right? And how safe it is. So similarly, we've got to do the same for our lives. And so there's a quiz that you'll take after you apply that'll give you an idea of how you are doing. And then from there, we will then address that during our brief intake conversation just to make sure that this is a great fit for you. And if it isn't, there's other resources we can recommend and suggest to really make life work. So that being said, this is essentially the tip of the iceberg of the myth and the legend behind this image architecture concept. Had it not been for my own sort of experience of being in the commercial construction world, I don't know if I would have really identified with this model of construction being applicable to human beings. But what I can tell you is that when you do bring this level of rigor, this level of focus, this level of attention, this level of clarity to people's lives, things change, things transform, things aren't the same. And people take themselves seriously in a way that they've never taken themselves before, and therefore are give themselves permission to take it to the next level, whatever that next level is for them. So if you're one of those people, use the link below in the description section here, and we will book a call, have a conversation about what's next for you, what your vision is, and how to build, and empower you in living your extraordinary and legendary life, right? And of course, it requires you living a better you to do that. All right, guys, thanks a lot, and I will see you guys on the call. For those of you who choose to participate in the 25 Blueprint program and or are interested enough to have the consultation to make sure that this is a good fit for you. All right, guys, talk to you soon. Take care.